to Miss Martin Muses and disagreeing. Prepare yourself. We are going to disagree, especially after I fix my microphone. Yes, we are going to disagree, and we're all still going to be friends. Actually, we might even agree. Because what we're talking about today is disagreement. Sometimes people say to me as a Roman Catholic, aren't you afraid the priest is going to reveal what your sins are? Well, besides the fact that he'll go straight to hell and be completely defrocked, rather, the correct word is lose his faculties and rot in hell for all eternity. I'm not afraid of people knowing confessing my sins to a priest because I confess them all to you. Because whenever I do these little musings, I'm showing you what I've been tempted to, or what I have done and how I have gotten around it and gotten to peace with myself and others. And as always, if you think I'm talking about you, I am, but I'm also talking about me. A lot of these I have put together for a very long time. Very, very, very long time. And they're sitting on my computer. I finally have time to go through them. And right now, the reason why I'm able to go live is because I'm homesick. Yes, I am, precious, or rather, I am not at mass. I usually like to go to mass at anticipation, but I have a cold and I don't want to give the vulnerable sick. You have at church a lot of elderly and a lot of young ones, and maybe just all sorts of people. So the last thing I want to do is get people sick and kill them over a cold. So I am home for mass. But this is why I love. Wait, that's the wrong button. I love Father. What is his name? Father Sinatra. He always televises his masses, including the anticipation. So look who's here. It is Shade Nolan saying hello. Good afternoon, Teresa. Hello, get well soon. Thank you. I just got over 10-day flu. Yikes. That's not okay. Not okay at all. And by the way, thank you, everyone. I'm at 926 subs, and I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So everyone, please keep sharing, subscribing, all that good stuff early and often, but not too much. Don't want to get hit by bot accusations, and I don't want bots. I want real ones. And you all are all very real to me. So is Rocky the Black Dragon and Sean Sue. Hello, everyone. We're going to talk about disagreeing. And that face that you see Denethor making, that's the face I make. I am a very expressive woman. So if you think I'm talking about you, this time I'm not. I'm more talking about me. I'm a very expressive woman. I scrunch up my face and I hate it. I hate it. See, I'm going to actually talk a little bit about why disagreeing is actually a good thing. And disagreement can also be an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to grow. But you need to know how to disagree correctly. Sadly, the internet has taught us all precisely the opposite: how to disagree badly. And I'm going to go through some of these suggestions. As always, I will cite my article. This is from Psychology Today. And just because I might quote an article or even a writer, that does not mean that I completely endorse the person. I remember once I did one of these and they're like, this person's this and that. It's like, well, yeah, but a broken clock can be right twice a day. So actually, I don't know about this particular author, but this is from, again, Psychology Today. Well, look who's here. It is Dad Man walking. Good evening. Take a break from helping my mom. Stop today. Hi. Well, thank you very much. Good son. Yeah, sadly, my expressions get me in trouble sometimes. Yeah, it's healthy. Yes, it is. And sometimes, especially through text, that is not the best way to do so. There's been situations where I have had someone completely different in mind, and people thought I was talking about them. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I didn't even realize that this person was holding perhaps the same position. And then in one situation, they're like, you're obviously talking about me. And I'm like, well, unless you're a conductor of an orchestra, I'm not. It is healthy. Dad Milwaukee says, yeah, and differing opinions are accepted until they're voiced, until yeah, absolutely. Well, a lot of people want to be like, "You have a right to my opinion," but there has to be some honesty to it as well. Shane Nolan says text makes things seem more hostile than intended. Precisely. Which is why I always say if you're having a real disagreement with someone, get into a hangout. Get into a hangout, get on the phone. If you can, meet them face to face. Yeah, that's what you need to do. And I will absolutely refuse to resolve a situation unless those terms are met. Like, nope, we are not going to argue it out on the internet. It has to be by voice. Nope, it will not be done by DM because it is impossible to get the correct tone and the correct intent across. Dadman Walking says, exactly. And sometimes people insist on arguing in text where so much can be misconstrued, but won't talk via phone or StreamYard. Even at work, I tell younger staff talking, you can learn more. Yes, be careful about email as well, especially at work. I love this. Once when I was teaching, I got one of those. I got a little nasty gram from a coworker. Blah 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 blah. And I did not write her back. I logged out of my computer and walked right down to her classroom. You could tell she was like, "Oh," it's like, "I'd like to talk about what you said in the email." And trust me, not only did she kind of cave back from some of her harsher words, we actually came to an agreement. And I sat her down and was like, "Listen, let me show it to you from my perspective. Okay. And second of all, if this is how you were feeling, please feel free to let me know. I mean, how can I know? I said, especially when you're at work, especially when you're teaching, you do not have any downtime. Like, you don't even get your lunch. I know by law we're supposed to have a lunch, but that lunch always gets taken up by something. All right. So do it face to face. 90% of communication is nonverbal. That is correct. Uh, like, I used a word today that I'm like, "Ooh, I hope people didn't get pissed off at me," because I just meant, like, utterly foolish, the word asinine. Yeah, so I am talking about me there. But drama farming also makes it worse because a lot of people think that people are genuinely arguing, and no, they're just drama farming. There was a tweet I sent out. I didn't quote tweet the person because I didn't want to get her more farming. Some atheist account who said something really asinine about Christians. And then everyone's like, "No, no, obviously you're wrong, blah, 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 blah." And then finally she goes, "LOL, you all responded exactly how I thought. All your responses have helped my, you know, bank account." Yeah, don't fall for the trap. Don't give people the attention they ordered. And again, we're going to go through some things. So if you genuinely want to discuss something, Dadman Walking says, exactly, go face to face if you can. When they want to talk outside of text, then you're stuck. Precisely. And if someone insists on doing it by text, the answer is nope, nope, nada. Because I can tell you for a fact that anywhere in the world right now, I can get a hold of all my friends, all the people, all my loved ones by voice, rather. If not by video, if not by Zoom, if not by that. Hi, Corey Cochran. Oh my gosh, lots of people are coming in. Odega Outlaw, hello. We're going to disagree. And before anyone thinks I'm talking about them with that Denethor thing, first of all, Denethor has the best grumpy face, and that's my grumpy face when I get mad. I am an emotional person. And that is why I have to keep self-reflecting on these things. Hi, Shane, he says. Agreed, Shane Nolan. They teach us that in our fraud auditing training, so much can be learned from nonverbal communication. Ooh, very nice. Interrogators do that as well. Thank you for everyone being here. And those that are watching on the replay, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's go into some of these 11 tips for disagreeing with someone. 11 tips. John Noble is a wonderful actor. Yes, he is. We will not disagree about that. He is amazing. Amazing. Fringe is something that I have been told I really need to watch. All right, let's start from the beginning. Now, I know this sounds touchy-feely. Here's my source, by the way. Oh, I thought this was Psychology Today. Oops. Well, whatever this is from, there's my source. Tell people they matter. I know this sounds ridiculous. I know it sounds touchy-feely, but that's really what people wanna hear. They matter. I'm hearing you. I'm listening to you. I'm not ignoring you. You wanna know what is really the worst thing you can do to someone is to ignore them. So that's also a way if you wanna get a little bit wicked. If you wanna punish someone, ignore them, but that's a whole other ballgame. I never ignore anyone. I will always have an invitation. Don't watch Fringe while eating. Mrs. Oh, did I miss something maybe? Agree. I loved him in Fringe as Walter. Okay. Sound advice, editing. Mhm. Eating, rather. Sorry. Gosh darn it. I do not have my reading glasses in. I just have my contacts in, and that always makes things weird. But tell people they matter. A lot of people here, when they hear you disagreeing with them, it's like, that person doesn't think I matter. That person thinks I'm nobody. And to be honest, they may not be wrong the way you see some people name call, etc. You're going to see this a little bit later. Let people know they're heard. Okay. You respect them as a human being. And there's ways you can disagree that will show that they don't. Also, that's a way that you can tell drama farmers and click engagement people versus genuine people who are wanting to have discourse or bots for that matter. Because they won't care. They won't care. Curious what prompted this. Yeah, I'm so glad you need to listen to the first the first part of the stream because I am completely guilty of making these weeks, days, even months in advance, and then everyone thinks I'm talking about them. These are on my computer and clogging up space. I've seen some disagreements. Well, first of all, I think I've been seeing a lot of drama farming. A lot of drama farming. And this week, yeah, there was a few things that got me where I'm like, quit trying to debate this person. This person's obviously not serious. So drama farming gets to me as well. And other situations. Other situations. Like you're having a noble play dinner for. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I said, and that's not a rebuke. It's just maybe a little bit of my disclaimer. I also said that be careful. These are also my own temptations. I usually talk about as well. And when saying hello, we love Salt DC here. We love everybody here. So tell people they matter. All right, don't demean them. Don't put them down. All that kind of stuff. And this goes with it as well. Don't be condescending. Especially if it is something where emotions are involved. Don't be condescending. It's gonna be the exact opposite of the effect that you want. And you're not gonna get your point across, and the person will shut down. Part of all of these rules is to know when to break them as well. Sometimes you have to be blunt and sharp, but very, very rarely. Very rarely. And I found that usually if I put something out there, people think I'm talking about them when I'm not. I'm talking about someone completely differently. But if anything I put out on my social media is food for thought, well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Everyone's saying hello and got you. Yes, but don't be condescending. Don't be a jerk. No one likes a jerk. No one likes a jerk. Ooh. Ah. Acknowledge the fears under the surface. If you run across defensiveness, what you're really running across is somebody's fears. Fear about themselves, fear they're not confident in their position, fear about I don't know, their daddy not loving them, their parents whatever it is. What do they call it? Daddy issues, mommy issues. My wife left me, whatever the fear is. There's some fears under the surface, and these fears are valid. Why are the fears valid? Because they're these people's fears. Whether they're legit or not, if they exist, they exist. You have to acknowledge it. Nothing pisses me off more when I'm like, listen, this is really concerning to me. And I'm talking about like bigger issues in the world and my personal safety, etc. It's like, oh, you're not in danger. Oh, what are you talking about? And it's like, well, here's what I'm talking about. Acknowledge these fears. It's like, oh, well, but that's just only a few places where that happens. And it's like, instead of saying, oh, I can see how you're concerned and I'm sorry if you feel that way. Yeah, it's terrible that these things are occurring in these situations. Acknowledge that there are fears under the surface. Defensiveness shows fear. And I don't mean that as a put down. Trust me, I got fears. Hyunsu says, everyone has their own perspective based on their own experiences. Talking things out can help you understand another's perspective, especially when you disagree. Because that's half of what's really going on. Keywords like help me understand. Who did I say that to? Who was it? I hope it wasn't anyone I know. I didn't say that online. I think it was with my family member. Help me understand. This is what I'm seeing. You tell me. Not I'm going to tell you what it's all about. Now, half the time I'm usually right, but let them tell you. And everyone's got different perspectives. And perspectives are valid. I'm not necessarily saying that they're reasonable, but if a person's experiencing, they're experiencing them. And you cannot talk someone out of an emotional reaction. Smash the like or you're a jerk. There we go. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Stop. Let's put people down. Darn right. LOL. Shane Nolan says you can disagree with family and friends and they will still love you or like you if you do it respectfully or fairly and don't take it or make it personal. Yeah. That's the other thing. Sometimes people think if you disagree with them or even disagree with their opinion that you don't like them. No, that's not the case. If I didn't like you, I would ignore you. The fact that you're giving someone your energy. And let's be honest, we're all very opinionated people, especially in this space. We're nerds. Most of us are. Of course, we're going to have strong opinions. In the workplace, you're going to have very strong opinions. But yeah, there's usually fear of disagreement. And the fears can also be a fear of if I bring this up, maybe this will be the end of our friendship. This will be the end of our relationship. Acknowledge that it's there. Bring it out into the sunlight. The whole expression, sunlight is the best disinfectant. Nerds. Darn right we're nerds. Yes, we are. And proud of it. Don't assume the worst. You're doing this because you don't like me. You're doing this because you don't love me. You're doing this because you're a horrible human being. I don't know. You're just assuming the worst about someone. Don't assume the worst. Always assume the best. Try that one day. Try that one day. That's a is it a Jesuit thing? Oh, okay, don't Jesuits have a bad name nowadays because they're kind of off the wall, but back in the day, they actually had some really good stuff. I think it's St. Francis Xavier is always give the best interpretation to someone's actions first. No, you might be may turn out that yeah, your instinct was right. This person didn't have good intentions. But maybe the person did. Maybe the person did. So always assume that someone does something with the best of intentions. And then when you approach them with that, you might find that it could bring some peace. Caveat, as always, whenever you're dealing with violence or something that is like so unacceptable, yeah, you got to jump in and assume the worst. Someone pulls out a something that is intended to cause harm to people, yeah, you need to assume the worst. I'm still disappointed my wife doesn't believe Blade is a great movie. Yeah. Give us a boy in 7 years and we'll give you back a man and we'll bring the Jesuits. Oh, in the schools. Yes. You probably know a lot more than I do. In in my childhood in Ireland, all the boys went to the Christian Brothers. I'm assuming they're still around. Yeah, don't assume the worst. Assume the best. Now, I would argue that other people also should try to take on that responsibility as well. It's like, hey, if I'm going to assume the best about you, well, how about you assume the best about me? Don't jump right away to something negative. Show them you can understand their perspective, even if you don't agree with it. Now, here's the key: you can understand their perspective. And I would argue you have to understand their perspective. Know it and understand it. But that doesn't mean you're agreeing with them. I remember back in the day in my anthropology classes, we had a situation where we were getting into evolution. And there was a bit of a question, as always, debate, should we be doing this, should not? And the professor's response was, I'm not asking you to change your beliefs about your religion by teaching you evolution. I'm just asking you to understand what the theory is. Eh, That is the way that I think we need to approach a lot of things. Communism. I'm obviously not a communist, but I need to understand it. Shane says, "Me too. Christian Brothers and Marists before, or Marist before that. Marists are the missionary order, but they have private schools to fund work overseas. Ah, very nice." Sean Sue, whenever someone acts with hostility, I try to keep in mind that I don't know what they may be going through, especially if they're behaving unreasonably. Yes. For all you know, you are the straw that broke the camel's back. You're the straw that broke the camel's back. And it's just, you know, just give them space. Because if you're confident in your position, you can also handle someone not agreeing with you. Like, oh my gosh, someone disagreed with me. What am I going to do? How will I survive? I guess I'll just survive. Sometimes it takes years for people to come around, but you never know what seed you're going to plant. But one way you will not plant that seed is if you burn that bridge. They talk about this. I think it's one of the last points here. Don't burn a bridge. I even have that perspective on people I've even had to cut off. You can cut off people without burning the bridge. Think about it. You guys went to school? Nice. I went to school too. Understand. Understand them. It can get frustrating because you're like, oh my gosh, people, but understand it. Don't use sarcasm, but some humor is okay. There is a family member that I have begged for like 1,000 years. Oh my gosh, don't use sarcasm. Because usually family fights don't break out until the person gets sarcastic. Because that puts people over the edge. Sarcasm is usually unkind. Because it's kind of going back to this whole not not respecting the individual. Don't use sarcasm. Some humor is okay, but be careful about humor because the person really may not be in the mood to laugh. It's like, don't you make jokes. Speaking of Jesuits, the trailers for Shogun look great. Yes, they do. Knock on wood, knock on wood. Sarcasm is the lowest form of wit. My grandmother, yeah. Well, sarcasm is, by its very definition, unkind. You're trying to make someone feel stupid. It can be used, but it's an art. I didn't know there was gonna be a new Shogun. Yes, there is. I believe it is on Netflix. So far, it looks decent. And luckily, thank goodness, we don't have to worry about them doing weird things with it because it is completely naturally diverse. Just not done literally. Yes, it's Gene Nolan. And hello, everyone that's here. Yeah, we're learning about things. Share your source. Share your sources. Everyone's going to start feeling judged right now. But this is really, really, really important. I have unfortunately had to do this with some things having to do with the prickly needle that goes in the arm. I don't even know if we're allowed to say it. Where sometimes the rumors are reported as facts. And while there might be some truth behind it, it's like you're not helping the cause if you're making up stuff or passing it on more than one occasion until I figured out what was happening. I was fooled by screenshots. And then finally I realized, wait, these are screenshots. Wait, wait, where's the source for the original article? People fake them. Are they good sources? Oh, this is a good point. Salty traveling. Thank you for the word I was thinking of. Shaming. Yeah. Shaming never ends well. With a very few exceptions, sometimes someone needs to be ashamed when they downright need to be made to feel ashamed. But most disagreements, no. Yeah. You don't want to invalidate them. You don't want to shame them because you're not going to get anywhere. But yeah, share your sources. I cannot tell you how many times I have had a situation where someone's been like, bleh. And instead of trying to refute it and all that, I've learned I have to stop and go, where did you hear that? Can you link me to the YouTube? Can you link me to the article? I did that with someone the other day. Someone I never even heard of, but it showed up on my timeline. I was like, I think I need to see the source for that. Can you please link me to that? Because just someone saying it doesn't make it true. Share your sources. If your position is solid, you should have no problem sharing your sources. Here it is. Here it is right here. And if you don't have sources, for me, that is my time to do some self reflecting that I am not being honest in the way I should be, that I maybe responded emotionally and wrong and stuff, that maybe I need to do some more careful consideration. But you should never be ashamed to share your source. Sometimes that is a technique I use, giving myself away here when I'm starting to get frustrated with a person, with a situation. I'll be like, okay, where's your source? Let's talk about your source. Cite your source. As a historian, we can have an amazing amount of material. We can have a thesis, for example. But if the source doesn't pan out, like sometimes I'll be like, oh gosh, this is great. This is great. This is exactly what I've been looking for. And then you find out it's an unreliable source or it's a fabricated source or it was a source that had an inordinate amount of bias to the point that you cannot trust the source, and then you have to discard it. Even though your thesis might still be true, if you can't really back it up with a source, then it is not valid. Shaming kids is fine, says Salty Traveling Sea. Need more of that, builds character. Yes, and that's why I'm saying good shame. How do I phrase this? You see this with children, and I call children up to high school, but especially younger when they really don't know better and they're just testing their boundaries and they do something cruel or they hurt someone. Yeah, and you have to be blunt and you have to be straightforward because they're children. When I was a child, I thought like a child. But hey, we're all grown-ups. We need to think like grown-ups. And don't let people goad you. That's half of what goes on the internet nowadays. They goad you into a response. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And then you realize this is not someone coming from good faith. This is someone coming from, I'm trying to rile you up. I'm trying to push your buttons. I'm trying to engagement click, drama farm. We often make a shame of ourselves, says Shade Nolan. But shaming language is very common these days. Women seem to use it a lot. Yeah, men do too, though. Sean Sue says that's a big problem with cancel culture. It would be better to talk to them and try to get them to understand your viewpoint. Darn right. Of course, what we have right now is because we have so much bullying. Often people will cancel because they're like, leave me alone. I don't want my company to get boycotted. I don't want my building to be blown up. I don't want a mob coming after me. That comes from fear. But you're exactly right. Due process. Everyone deserves a chance to have their side be heard. That's why it's so important in the American justice system. Everyone has a right to a defense. Everyone has a right to see their accuser. All of that. Hello, Jacob Ironside. We're disagreeing with each other. Edwin's saying hello. Share your memes too. Almost as important. Yes, memes are very important. But share your sources. I'm going to be kind, a little bit kind. If someone won't share their sources, probably not worth your while to continue the discussion. It's like, okay, how about you get back to me when you have some sources where you can show it to me? Sometimes the people really will. Sometimes they just don't remember. They're like, I heard it somewhere. Let me find it. But share your sources. Agreed due process. What's next? Don't fire in the hole. When I first saw this, I was like, what? But apparently, military individuals know what that means. I am not. And I probably should know it, but I did not. What does that mean? What does that mean? I copied and pasted it. Words like stupid, ignorant, deplorable, disgusting, idiotic, crazy. Ooh, this describes every politician. Blanket statements that include the words always and never. Yeah. Very rarely do those words apply. I can tell you where I feel they apply. Always mean I've used this, practical jokes. Practical jokes are always cruel. Practical jokes are never funny. And I can defend that. Murder is always wrong. Never harm an innocent. Okay. Zingers, gotcha moments, clapbacks. These are momentarily gratifying, but will erode your relationship with the person. Yeah, and not only will they erode the relationship with the person, it'll undermine your position. I did a stream about that called The Need to Be Right. about the pathological condition where someone has to be right. They've got to win. They've got to own. Gotcha. And if you think I'm talking about you, I probably am, but I'm also talking about me. Gotcha moments. All name calling. I've had people push back on that, that sometimes people deserve to get called names. I'm going to go with the all here. I think all name calling is wrong. I called George R.R. Martin some really mean names, not to his face though. It was on a stream once. And I felt bad afterwards, even though he doesn't know and he certainly doesn't care. I shouldn't have called him those names. That was mean. And it hurts me more than it hurts them. And all labels. Labels are dumb, even if they apply. But I've seen people try to do that in arguments. It's like, oh, you're just like all SJWs. Well, boom, conversation's over. Why, it's Biggles. Yes. Talk about them disagreeing, and just all around conflict farmer Biggles right here. Everyone saying hi. I think everyone has that. Me too. Oh, wait. What do you have, Shane? The need to be right is a very bad common thing. Yeah. Well, think about it. Why do you need to be right? Because the alternative is that you're wrong, and that doesn't feel good. These are natural feelings. Here we go, is bashing Snow White as the most awful person ever. For those of you that don't know, Biggles is referring to the Snow White from Once Upon a Time. I think he likes the original one, maybe. Yeah. I mean, you can do that. Nothing's stopping you. But then don't be surprised if it doesn't work out well. Ooh, do teach and be taught. Teach and be taught. You've got to be willing to hear and be taught as you teach. It's like, hey, this is why I feel this way. Someone else is like, well, this is why I don't see it that way. And let me explain to you why. You've got to listen. You've got to be willing to be taught and teach. It's much harder to be taught. But unless you're God Almighty, you don't know everything. You don't. And if you don't believe in God, oh my gosh, speaking of God, it is none other than Lethal Lightning with an Australian $3 super sticker. It's a little, oh, he's giving me hearts and all sorts of good stuff. Thank you, Lethal, who is the epitome of perfection from down under. Thank you very much. And oh, I get to use my little branding thing. Here you go. There's a big rose for you. Yeah, we're talking about disagreeing. How to disagree without being a dick. Being a Denethor. Well, Denethor actually, he wasn't so much a disagreeing person, but I love his face. I have a rage face. But do teach and be taught. Thank you so much, Lethal. You're awesome. Don't vent frustration. Channel it. So how do you do that? Well, for one, I'm doing what I'm doing right now. I'm yapping to you all. I get very frustrated by seeing non-productive discussions. There was one earlier this week that I just couldn't handle it anymore. I just like, I can't listen to this. It's just so fruitless. So I could go and yap about my feelings about how to argue, how to disagree, how to debate. Those of you that used to debate, it used to be an art. Channel it. Or I don't know, go to the gym and punch some bags. Get on your bike. I love riding my bike. Get on your bike, go around the block, or more than around the block. I try to do 5 miles minimum, 10 miles if I have the time. Don't vent it, channel it. And if you find yourself starting to get frustrated, there's no crime in walking away, saying, listen, I'm starting to get mad. Maybe we can continue the discussion another time, but I need to take a time out. And you have to be willing to accept that the person wants a timeout. Oh no, this person's just being a chicken. No, this person needs a timeout. There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually a good thing because they're also showing you that they care about you. It's like, listen, I don't want to say something hurtful. So I'm going to back off. Going to back off. I love a good civil debate. Yes, that is true. Because that's how we learn, for crying out loud. That's how we learn. And if you do vent in a safe place, vent to your dog or your cat, your goldfish, whatever it is, but do so in a safe and non-hurtful manner. Thank them for disagreeing. Okay, this one's a little bit touchy-feely for me. It's like, really, thank them for disagreeing. And I have not thanked someone for disagreeing with me, but I have thanked somebody for being willing to talk with me about it. It's like, if this is how you feel, we need to talk about it. This is something you want to talk about. Well, let's hear. Thank you for allowing me to let my side be heard. And then here's some final thoughts. This is from the article. I did cite the article at the beginning because I like to cite my sources. You can't control someone else. You can't. I'm going to say that again. You can't control someone else. You can only control the ways you act in the world. I would take that another way. It's like you can only control you. The goal is not to agree. I would agree. Believe it or not, I would agree about that. Disagree. I, I would agree. The goal is not to agree. Is it really to agree? The goal is to listen. And sometimes that's how we get to agree. I cannot tell you how many times where I have changed my position. It has just been from someone supplying me with information I didn't know. So don't go into a discussion thinking that you're going to end up agreeing with the person or the person's going to agree with you. Because let's just say pride is of such the nature, or the nature of pride is such rather, that even if maybe you did convince the person, they're probably not going to agree to it. We're all fallen creatures. We're not going to be able to handle that. And we can't control that kind of outcome. You can't. We can build bridges, though, instead of bonfires. That's where I was saying earlier about never burn a bridge. You can disagree with someone immensely and still build a bridge with them. Think about that for a second. You can build a bridge. And if you are going to build a bonfire, every now and then there is necessity for that. Know why you're doing it and understand the consequences. This, for me, is in the context of a situation in the workplace, for example. Even when you despise your old job, you never burn a bridge. That was some advice I got very early in my career, and I'm glad I followed it. The truth will out. It really will. You may not know about it, but it will. And then let's just say the agreement or the disagreement is not resolved. Guess what? Is it the end of the world? Unless it's something serious. Okay, let me just give that caveat. Everything I say here is unless it's something really, really, really serious. Okay. Is it the end of the world? Probably not. No. Will your world keep turning? Yeah, it will. And I guess if you need a target, find a safe target. It's a good example. I'm how public figures, politicians, that's part of the game. Fine. Vent at the president, the prime minister. They're probably not even running the social media anyways. I think Donald Trump was the only one who actually did. So as I said, sometimes people think that if you disagree, it's because you don't understand their point of view. Oh, it can be hard to get them to recognize that you do understand, just disagree. Very good point. Yeah, if I just told you, if I just showed you. Or they assume just because you hold this position, you don't know the facts. And that's where you can help the situation by maybe asking questions. Asking questions is a very good way of doing this. Like, oh, so you thought I was being an asshole. Okay, let's just throw that one out there. Okay. Help me out here. First of all, what was the situation? 'Cause sometimes we women are notorious. We think everyone knows what you're mad about. Sometimes it's not. So be willing to say, listen, when you said this, you said that. You can do it by asking questions. And sometimes just by the very act of the individual answering the questions, it's like, wait a second. Maybe my position's not that solid, or maybe I need to go back and revisit this. Maybe I am being a little bit unreasonable. Maybe it was just hormones. I don't know, whatever it is. But anytime you can use your reason. Yes, sound advice, never burn your bridges. Yeah. It's like, yes, I do understand your position. I disagree. And if you do disagree, say, and this is why. Shansu says a good example of this whole discussion is that video of the teacher with the kid talking about J.K. Rowling. Yeah, wasn't that great? You could tell that the kid was just repeating what he had heard, didn't look at the sources and all that, and the teacher walked the student through it. Good point. Well, yeah, that's why the whole Socratic method, everything is still solid. And in culture war issues, I think I mentioned this earlier when I was talking about a certain shot that was kind of controversial and still is that the your side, whatever it is, to be honest, is not served by using faulty data, by not using good and solid sources. It has to be from a solid point of view. Otherwise, you make everyone look like idiots. And I think that that's sometimes where frustration comes in. Because usually in that situation, there truly is very good sources, good data, all that jazz. But mm, it just doesn't help. Does not help at all. So with that in mind, yeah, that's the end of my little slideshow here. Everyone that's listening and everyone that might be coming on later, if you have anything you want to say in the comments or any final thoughts. Uh, Disagreeing poorly upsets me. But I think that when it comes to the culture war, it's lost already, so you don't have to worry about it. Gene Nolan says, I saw something about that today. Sudden death syndrome. Pathologists report something they're finding in results that was never present before the jab, causing 50% of the deaths they see. Yeah, precisely. Now, if that's just something you heard from someone who heard something else from someone who heard something from someone, that wouldn't be solid. But if you can back it up, see where it came from, when it came from, where it was reported, look at the data, absolutely. Precisely. So there's are some tips. Hopefully this will help you in your workplace. Hopefully this will help you in your jobs. I did say the workplace, in your relationships, romantic, friendships, family, online discourse. Keep that in mind. Keep human nature in mind, keep reason in mind, and food for thought. You don't even have to agree with what I just said, but maybe listen. Shansu says, when I was young, Richard Nixon was considered a fair target for general ridicule. I was so taken aback the first time I encountered someone with a different perspective. Darn right. Yeah. Yeah. It did the same to me too, because popular culture had done it. And that's why popular culture can be pretty harsh and evil. But of course, looking back, it's like, wait a second. Is anything really that cut and dry? What was really going on? And even with people I don't like, you got to be fair to them. I hate to say it, because everything that you want to do is to be unfair. I'm thinking of a certain political person right now, is that there is plenty that you can say about an individual that is, how do I say this? Plenty of negative things you can say about an individual. You don't have to make up stuff. I would say that on both sides, to be honest. Because unless you're perfect, and no one is, listen. Listen, but look at your sources and cite your sources. That's probably the takeaway I want to have from this. And be willing to listen. One could argue the whole psychology of online discourse is that people like to go online because they don't want to listen. That's why there's so much animosity, so much negativity. So there we go. I'm going to go back to resting. metaphorically crying into my metaphorical beer. I don't like feeling bad, but I hope everyone does have a good day. So thank you, Shansu. We have Shane Nolan. We had Lethal Lightning coming in. We had Biggles. We had Salty Traveling Sea, Jacob Ironside. Anyone else? And as always, if I miss someone, it's because it jumped everywhere. There we go. Fletcher Williams. I suck at games. Diga Outlaw. Sean Sue. I think I said that already. Dadman Walking. Corey Cochran. And thank you for the stream. Well, thank you for being here. So have a great day, everyone. Have a great day. And be certain to disagree well.